when I signed with Capitol Records, they paid me $500 for the master of My Bologna. 3 or 4 years later, when I re-recorded it for my first real album, I think they charged me $1,000 for the right to re-record it. And that, my friends, is why they call it the record business. Hello, I'm Weird Al Yankovic, and these are my iconic tracks. I recorded it in the bathroom across the hall from my college campus radio station, KCPR 91.3, San Luis Obispo. I just sent in that bathroom recording to Dr. Demento, and he played it on the radio. I couldn't believe it because it was #1 on the Funny Five for like 2-3 weeks in a row. I went to a Knack concert. I don't know how I did, but I snuck backstage somehow after the show. And I met Doug Feiger, the lead singer of the Knack, and I introduced myself, and he was like, "Oh, you're the My Bologna guy." And oddly enough, the guy to his right was the vice president of Capitol Records, who just happened to be at that show. I was in school getting my degree in architecture. I wasn't passionate about that. I didn't really want to be an architect, but I didn't really think I could make a living in showbiz. That was just such an alien concept to me. But the fact that I now had a single on Capitol Records, like the home of the Beatles, you know, the big tower in Hollywood, like that was a huge deal. And it got me thinking, well, maybe I can do this.
Ooh, I think the toast is done. The toast is done. Top it with a little love.
I remember when I recorded it in the studio, I was so nervous. We recorded it way too fast. I didn't have a record deal at the time. It was kind of done on spec. And it's expensive to be in the studio, and I was doing the math, and if I take a bathroom break, it's going to cost me $20. You know, I was still working a minimum wage job at the time, and I was very aware of money flying out the window. And My Bologna, I think I knew when we recorded it, oh, this is way too fast, but it's fine. Move on, next song.
Think I'm just too white and nerdy. Think I'm just too white and nerdy. Can't you see I'm white and nerdy? Look at me, I'm white and nerdy.
I don't think it was like spontaneous inspiration. I think I probably sat with the Chameleon Air track because that was a huge hit. And I was like, what can I do with this? And then I thought, oh, white and nerdy? That's my life. That's my whole existence. I don't need to research this song. I spent my whole life doing research on this song. So the ideas came pretty quickly, and I had dozens of pages of notes because I wanted to write down every single nerdy thing that I'd ever done or thought about doing in my life and put it all in one song. Key and Peele, at this point, I believe were probably most famous for being on Mad TV. I think I knew Key, or we had some mutual friends, and I thought, oh, these guys would be great. I love these guys. To this day, people are discovering that Key and Peele are in the video. Like, oh, I just watched the White Nerdy video. Key and Peele are in the video! It blows their minds.
Another one right the bus.
I started playing the accordion October 22nd, 1966. And I took lessons for 3 years. That's my formal musical training. They only teach you polkas and classical pieces. And, when I was getting in my preteen years, I just was more interested in the songs I was hearing on the radio. I thought it would be fun to do a parody of Another One Bites the Dust because it's got such a distinctive bass line. It's a very simple song. It's very powerful, but simple. And simple is good when you're trying to emulate it on an accordion. I was maybe 20 years old, maybe 21. And I was debuting my new song, Another One Rides the Bus. And I needed somebody to bang on my accordion case. And this guy, John, said, oh, well, I'm a drummer. And I said, bang away. And as it turns out, he's now been banging away. He's been my drummer for 42 years.
Just eat it. Get yourself an egg and beat it. Have some more chicken, have some more pie.
I had high hopes for Eat It, but I had no conception of how big it would be. It was overnight fame, which seems like a myth, but literally the day after Eat It went into heavy rotation on MTV, I was recognized everywhere I went. Because back then, people were obsessed with MTV. This is like 1984. People were so intimately familiar with the Michael Jackson video that it was very easy to do a parody because all we had to do was recreate it, but just tweak things just a little bit. We did have the same choreographer, Vince Patterson, who was the gang leader in the Michael Jackson video. Happily, he agreed to be in my video as well. I tried as hard as I could to dance like Michael Jackson. And that's why it's funny, because I am not a dancer. I've never been a dancer. I'm just this uncoordinated, lanky weirdo. And the fact that this guy is trying to dance like Michael Jackson, you know, that's funny, because it's not happening.
We've been spending most our lives living in an Amish paradise. I churned butter once or twice, living in an Amish paradise.
Amish Paradise was one of my first hip-hop/rap songs. People, you know, are curious about what the Amish actually thought of the video, and I found out the Amish, as a rule, aren't big MTV watchers. Yeah, I haven't gotten a lot of Amish feedback. I did my own stunt in that one. I could have died because the Buster Keaton gag of the falling barn, the falling house. There's a barn frame that falls on top of me, and that's all real. That's not a camera effect or anything like that. They wanted to make sure that the barn frame wouldn't torque or move. So what they did was they reinforced it with steel. So this thing weighed a ton, probably literally. They said, you have to stand right here in this little square. Don't move, because if you move, literally, you will die. So we did one take of that, and I did some of my best acting I've done in my life. I had to pretend like I wasn't scared out of my mind. The Coolio thing's been talked about to death. You know, he had a problem with it initially because there were some crossed wires. He did not approve it apparently initially, and we were told that he did because his producer had approved it, and there was miscommunication there. That all got straightened out. I mean, you know, within a few years, you know, we hugged it out and we made up, and I'm glad that there wasn't any kind of, you know, bad blood or ill will. We're fine. I Love Rocky Road was my second music video. And these were non-union days. One day shoot meant like 22 hours in a row. Like you got one day to shoot this, like, okay, this day will never end. We're gonna keep shooting till we're done. Musical Mike was in the video, the guy that does the hand music. We featured him a lot in the early material. And there was stuff that we never got around to shooting because I guess the day wasn't planned out that well. We actually had a dozen kids from an accordion school with their accordions. We never got around to shooting it. It got to be like 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, okay, kids, you can go home now.
I hear those ice cream bells and I start to drool.
An old Hollywood trick is when you're shooting ice cream on screen, you don't use ice cream because it melts very quickly. There's no continuity. So we use mashed potatoes. So anytime you see me in that video holding an ice cream cone, it's mashed potatoes. But there's one shot where I was supposed to take a bite of the ice cream cone. So it's like 2 scoops of latex paint covered mashed potatoes and 1 scoop of real Rocky Road ice cream. I turn my head quickly, and during my head turn, the actual scoop falls off. So I take a huge bite of latex covered mashed potatoes. I think we got through the shot, but it was disgusting.
Now I'm mumbling and I'm screaming and I don't know what I'm singing.
Smells Like Nirvana, I think was the closest we've ever gotten to using the original everything, because we shot that on the same soundstage that Nirvana shot their video on. We had most, if not all, of the same cheerleaders. We had the same janitor guy. So it felt very real, you know? And I think we had to kind of convince people that we weren't like mocking Nirvana or making fun of them. You know, they understood pretty early on we were being very respectful. We didn't have a celebrity cameo. People were kind of flaking out on us. And I forget who, but somebody in the crew said, "Oh, I know Dick Van Patten." I said, Dick Van Patten! So he called him up, and within like an hour he was on the set, and he was doing that crazy thing where he's like in the audience with all these like hardcore, you know, Nirvana fans. I did not even know that Tony Hawk was in the video until like he tweeted it like 2 decades later. He said something like, "Oh, this reminds me of when I was on the Weird Al video for Smells Like Nirvana." And I was like, "You were in the video?" So I can kind of see him. You can freeze frame it and kind of pinpoint, "Oh yeah, it's Tony Hawk, that's him." When I write a parody, I try to make everything as funny as I possibly can. And there's nothing funny about a guitar solo. So it's like you think, okay, what would be funnier than like, you know, a guitar solo here? Like, oh, well, you got your gargling, kazoo chorus. They're very Spike Jones-isms. Like, you know, Spike Jones and the City Slickers, a very popular comedy band in the 40s and 50s and early 60s. And one of my heroes, I've borrowed a lot of things from him, like all the crazy instruments and the sound effects and things like that. Whenever possible, I try to have a little nod to Spike. I think to this day it might be my most popular original song. It's a pastiche or a style parody where it's not a direct parody, but it's meant to sound like an artist or a group. A lot of my pastiches aren't necessarily based on how popular an artist is. It's based on my personal love of their body of work. And I'm a huge Devo fan, and I was like, I want to write a song like Devo would write. And Dare to Be Stupid was the result of that. For the video, we tried to use as many Devo-isms as we possibly could. We studied every single video that Devo put out. There's the yellow radiation suits. There's the scene with the kind of pantyhose pulled over their faces. I made a list of like, a woman cutting a kiwi, just like random things that we thought like, oh, that's something Devo might do. Why not? When I originally wrote the song for the Running with Scissors album, I would like write pages and pages of notes, and here's an idea, and here's an idea, and here's an idea. And I thought, okay, now I got to cut this down to song length. And that's when I thought, no, I'm not going to cut it down. I'm just going to do the whole thing. I really thought nobody's going to listen to this more than once. I made it on purpose as long and as obnoxious as I possibly could. I was basically trolling my fans, saying like, oh, you want a long song? And it goes on forever. It wound up being one of my most popular songs. Like fans like, please play Albuquerque. Like, really? So we've been playing it live, and it just boggles my mind that people love that song. The first time I saw the Bad video, I think it was the world premiere, the Michael Jackson Bad video, I had the idea for Fat before the video was even over. Usually I really think a long time about my concepts and think of all the various options, but no, I had the idea immediately, because I just envisioned like this 900-pound guy trying to get through the turnstile in the subway, and I thought, oh, Fat, it's got to be Fat, and it'll be like a sequel to Eat It. It just makes so much sense. I have to do this. I went back to Michael Jackson to make sure he was okay with it, and he was. And in fact, and this was amazing, he let us use his set. This time, it was actually Michael Jackson's set we were shooting on. And they were just about to strike it. They were just about to tear it down. And we found out, we said, no, no, let us shoot there. We did 2 days of shooting with the dancers and everything. And then the third day, we shot in the morning, which was only the face blowing up shot. And nowadays, that would be like an easy CGI thing. You could just do that with computers, no big deal. But this is 1988. So that was done practically. So what they did was they glued these like latex bladders, like balloons. They glued it to my face. But then they had tubes running from my face to the ground, and there were special effects people laying on the ground, blowing through these straws, essentially, to expand my face. And I think the take that we used, I said, okay, last take, just blow up my face until it explodes. So they just blew up my face until like it exploded on my head. And we used everything up until the frame where it explodes.
Pop, 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 polka face, pop, pop, polka face. Pop, 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 polka face, pop, pop, polka face. Hey!
I have had a polka medley on virtually every album. I think there may be 2 that I somehow didn't put a polka medley on. The medleys allow me to poke fun at a lot of songs all at once. It's easier for me in a way because I'm not having to come up with funny lyrics. I mean, it's the arrangement that's funny. So I get to focus on the music part of it and to find the humor through the instrumentation. That exercises a muscle that I don't really get to exercise that much with the straight parodies. Polka Face, I think, was the first actual music video that we created for one of the polka medleys, because prior to that, I had these kind of pirate videos where I would literally take the original videos, of the original artists and speed them up so they would match my singing. So we did and we couldn't release those officially because I stole them. But for Polka Face, we did an Anajam. I found like a dozen or so animators that I really thought were amazing. And I said, you do this song, you do this song, you do this song. I didn't even ask what they were doing. I just said, have fun. And then we just cut it all together, and that was the video.
A malpractice suit. Hey, like a surgeon. Catting for the very first time.
It's a personal policy of mine never to let somebody else suggest a parody idea. I have somebody going through my fan mail and taking out all the song suggestions, so I just don't want somebody else saying, oh, I gave Al that idea. The one exception that I made was Madonna, because as legend has it, and I've told the story 1,000 times, but Madonna was talking to a friend of hers one day in New York City, and just offhandedly said, oh, I wonder when Weird Al's going to do Like a Surgeon. And her friend knew my manager, and word got back to me, and I thought, not a bad idea. The most memorable thing about that day was the lion. There was a lion in the video because there was a lion in Madonna's, like a Virgin video. For no apparent reason, we had to have a lion in the hospital just roaming the halls. It was funny and random, but I will say that we lost a lot of our extras that day. A lot of the actors that were playing random people in the hallways. As soon as the lion was on set, they said, yeah, I don't think this is worth my $50 a day. I think I'm going home now. But it was a fun video to do. You know, I writhe around a lot on the floor as a hobby. It's a personal thing that I like to do, and it was nice to be able to use that in a music video. Hardware Store is a completely original song. It's not a pastiche or anything. Although, in all honesty, it started out as a pastiche. I won't tell you of which band because then it's going to wind up as a Wikipedia entry. But it kind of went in a different direction as it was being written and being recorded. And we decided, oh no, this is just like an actual Weird Al original. I wanted to write a song that was like impossibly fast. You know, like impossible to do live. Because again, that became one of my most popular songs, and people are like, when are you gonna play Hardware Store live? It's like, it's hard to do that live. It's hard to do that bridge in 4-part harmony. You know, it would be hard enough for me to do it, but for the rest of the band to like sing in perfect sync in 4-part harmony, probably not gonna happen. The number 27 has become sort of an in-joke with my fans because I don't know how it started really. I guess I wrote a song or two that had the number 27, and people, you know, back in the day said like, why the number 27? And instead of answering them, I just kept using the number more and more, you know, throughout my career until it became like this in-joke. So it's sort of like when you see the number 27, it's just sort of like a little secret handshake with the fans. I'm Weird Al Yankovic. Thanks for watching, and these were my iconic tracks.